Hi there, everyone. My name is Christian Eschbach, and welcome to another one of my album reviews. And this is going to be a fun one. So, if you're one of my regular viewers, you know that I typically do an Alice Cooper album on odd multiples of nine. Sorry, 19, 39, 59. So, like, usually right before I hit a multiple of 20. The nine. So, anyways, um, I missed it, and I missed it because I wanted to get a brand new album out. And funny enough, that review has already dropped. That is Beyond the Black, Beyond the Black. As I'm recording this, it's been out for about 3 hours. So, then I follow that up with Nickelback's brand new album, and then I followed that up with Lindemann's new live album. And since I was on a live album already, I figured, let's do a live album for Alice Cooper. I actually literally just picked this up. This is brand new. And because it's Alice Cooper and it's live, I only have to listen to it once or twice to let you know really what it's like. Now, this is really interesting. I've heard a lot of live recordings from the 60s, the 70s. When you start getting into the 80s and 90s, the quality gets a little bit better. And when you get into the mid 90s, you start getting a lot more digital recorders coming out. So bootlegs and stuff like that get a lot easier to get your hands on, or a lot better quality. And I'm not saying that this is a bootleg. It's not an official release. This is Alice Cooper, El Paso County Coliseum, 1980. The classic Texas broadcast. This was 1980. This was on the tour for Flush the Fashion. I've covered that album. Go watch the review for that. I've covered most albums that are going to be incorporated into this. Now, the reason why I mentioned the bootlegs and the live albums and stuff like that is if a live album was officially being recorded for a label release, for an actual record release, they definitely recorded it live off the board usually, because that's how you get the best sound. Complimentary microphones to get room sound, stuff like that. This, on the other hand, has more of... It sounds like it was recorded from a microphone within the concert, not so much off the board. The reason why I mention off the board as well is in the world of bootlegs, Grateful Dead bootlegs are always known as some of the absolute best bootlegs out there, because they're Grateful Dead didn't want bad bootlegs out there. They wanted quality bootlegs. So they would actually let people record live off the board. And with the Grateful Dead, that's kind of necessary as a jam band, right? Because, tape trading, stuff like that. This, now, normally with bootlegs and stuff that's recorded where it sounds open air recording, you usually lose the low end. The kick drum totally will disappear. Cymbals will go from sounding like the epic sonic bashery of a Zildjian down to like you're hitting pots and pan lids. The vocals tend to be clear, but they're not necessarily clean. And the guitars will sound like they're sitting in a pocket of air. Whereas if you get like a major label recording and it's coming off the board, you can actually hear everything nice and crisp and whatnot. This has more of that sound. Now, it's interesting because there's some unique differences between this and your typical bootleg kind of recording. This one, you can hear the bass clear as day. Clear as day. You can hear the audience throughout the whole entire thing, so that's kind of nice. The drums aren't bad. I mean, you're not really going to hear the kick drum all that much, unfortunately, but they're not bad. Or not with that oof you wanted to hear. The guitar is a little so-so. They're a little quieter in the mix. Definitely that open air sound that I was talking about. The vocals have that sound as well. And one thing I didn't mention, which applies here, is synthesizers or keyboards or whatever you want to call them. And this is really interesting here because you do definitely you can hear that there is definitely panning in the live audience where the synths are playing in different speakers at different times, projecting in different ways, which is brilliant and awesome. The downside, though, is because of the way this was recorded, you can tell they're recording in different spots, but you can also kind of tell where the microphone is positioned that was recording this. Right. See what I'm saying? Okay. Now, I'm going to rapid fire for most of these songs because I've covered most of these before. Even live versions, I've covered most of these before. The other thing I do want to mention, and I'm definitely far enough away from the intro that I can mention this now, is you can hear the cocaine on this album. Oh my lord, you can hear the cocaine. And the reason why I say you can hear the cocaine is you can hear the speed in it, the angst in it, that aggression. There's a certain edge that cocaine gives music. Gives this edge. Totally gives this edge. And it just basically means that, pretend that, the music is being played straight up. Heroin causes it to lean back and tilt back. Like the Rolling Stones, it feels a little sloppy, a little lazy, but somehow just right. Cocaine, on the other hand, goes the other way and it leans forward. So everything definitely feels more rushed, more pushed. Even if it meets the normal timeline of the song, it still just has this energy where it's leaning into it, man. It's just leaning right into it. All right, let's get into the actual songs. All right, the album's up with an instrumental. This one's actually kind of interesting. It's a medley that's really synth heavy. And when I was talking about that cocaine, any listener with a keen ear is going to hear that cocaine fuel right away in this instrumental. It's just bits and pieces of songs here and there. Normally I'd list out all the songs, but yeah, they weren't that important. It kind of rapid fires them just to get the audience warmed up. And it does a great job. Then we go into Grim Facts. This is kind of cool. I've never heard this one live. That'd be cool to hear live. That's kind of where that ends. Yeah. Then we hit Goes to Hell. Now, as I've already mentioned about the cocaine, it's really interesting that on this song, it stays surprisingly on tempo. It doesn't feel rushed, like it doesn't have that lean I'm talking about. It's got that straight up sound you want to hear. Then we go into Guilty. Another song, really cool. Nice to hear that they put it on here. However, the recording limitations kind of hurt this one. Normally has a great live feel. Then we go into Pain. Flange bass. Ooh, flange bass turned way the hell up in the mix. Can't miss this, man. Love me some flange bass. This version, however, though, did not interpret well. I don't like the way the instruments sound on it. They sound too painful. There's a wonderful kind of sick melancholy about the original version of Pain. This one just kind of like pain. Like if you listen to all the instruments, they're really trying to make it sound painful. Like they really. Someone had a cocaine inspiration. Hey man, let's make it sound like it's actually hurting. Yo, let's do that. Okay, bye. That goes into Talk Talk. This one feels really raw, almost under-practiced. It's the best way I know how to describe it. It really feels like it was thrown in there to throw in there, but wasn't actually really meant to be there, didn't really want to be there. It's cool because at this time period, Alice was still, when he'd play a live show, he was still heavily representing the albums that he was actually touring on, not just one or two songs. He would play like half the album at least live. And sadly, that kind of, by the time you hit, well, no, he brought it back. Okay, so Hey Stupid kind of started being the beginning of him not playing as many songs live from a live album. And sadly, there was no official tour for The Last Temptation. When Alice came back with Brutal Planet had heavy representation. But when he released Dragontown, not so much. And then it kind of slipped after that, where, you know, he'd be out touring an album and really just wouldn't play many songs from the album anymore. Which is a shame, but that's because Alice has got so many great classics now that it's almost at the point where Alice, if he had the ability to still do it, it's way too much singing for him at this point, I would say. But if Alice had the ability to do it, he'd have to do 2 different shows now to be able to properly tour a brand new album. Because he'd have to do like the greatest hits show, and then he'd have to do the new album show kind of thing. You know, it's all right. Moving on. We get to 18. Based on Wikipedia, it looks like Danny Johnson and Davy Johnstone were most likely the guitarists touring for this album. It could be wrong. There's a few listed, but based on the way that they listed them there, these two were at the top of the list, so I'd imagine they were the first ones to tour at this time. As a guy who's personally played this song live, never on guitar, but I've personally played it live with some great guitars, they could have done better. From there, we go into Gutter Cats versus the Jets. Once again, not 100% sure, but it looks like John Cocker Lopresti was the one that was on the bass, and lights this one right up. I mean, gets right into that pocket that you need to be into on this one, right off the beat. And that there's a pocket. You gotta be in on this one. It's brilliant. He hits it really well. After that, we go into Clones. I love this song. I hate this version. Not a good cover. No. Well, I mean, not a good rendition, not a good live recording of it at all. All right, after Clones, we're into Nuclear Infected. Oddly, this one actually holds up okay compared to many others on this album. It sounds pretty decent. I didn't mind this one. Then we're going to do a mix of $1 Billion Babies' I Love the Dead. The drummer, I want to say this is Dennis Conway. Tries really hard. Has his own flair to it, own little thing. It's alright, not bad. I'm very particular about the drums. In my review of the actual album, I even fuck up the drums myself a little bit for fun on the intro. Go take a look if you want. So I don't mind. It's not too bad for $1 Billion Babies. Then it goes into I Love the Dead. And this is a proper performance of I Love the Dead. Not the full, close to the full though, but not exactly the full length version. But it's not just the chorus after an execution of singing I Love the Dead. This and the band jamming out. This is actually a performance of I Love the Dead. And it's really weird because as this is usually the execution song, there doesn't sound like there's an execution anywhere in it because Alice seems like he's singing the whole way through. I'm not sure what's going on because there is an instrumental right afterwards, so you'd think there might be an execution. But it goes right back into $1 Billion Babies from I Love the Dead. So if there is an execution in there, it's kind of in this one part, and then they have Alice come right back out again before the song is even done to finish out $1 Billion Babies because he's the one that's clearly singing on it. So I'm not sure what's going on. And then it goes into the instrumental jam on top of that afterwards. So I'm really confused at this point as someone who's been to all these concerts, right? I don't know if this was mixed weird for this, like if someone maybe did a cut and splice. I don't know what they did here. All right, and then instrumental jam. This one surprised me a bit. It's basically the song "Wish You Were Here" from the Goes to Hell album, and it seems like it's about the full length, give or take. It's really close to the original full length version, and it really, the way that they're jamming on it and whatnot, it really doesn't feel like it's following an execution, as I was already mentioning, which is when normally a jam would take place is after the execution. You know, it's usually the big thing is post-execution, or if Alex needs a wardrobe change or whatnot. So all I can think of is he didn't do an execution, or they did the execution differently. Maybe they did the electric chair instead of the guillotine. Maybe I don't know. You know, like there's no pictures in here to even indicate what was done during the show. So I can only guess. And after that, we go into Dance Yourself to Death. The sound hurts this one. Had some real potential, but the sound just kind of, the quality of the sound just kind of hurts it. Only Women Bleed. Okay, so if you're one of my regular viewers, if you watch any of my Alice Cooper reviews previously, you know I don't like the song Only Women Bleed. And a happy Alice Cooper concert is an Alice Cooper concert where I don't have to hear it. This was not an happy Alice Cooper concert because this is 2 minutes longer than the original version is. Oh yeah, this one, the original version clocks in just over 5 minutes. This one clocks in like just over 7 minutes, man. No, that is way too much Only Women Bleed for me. And I know that Cheryl was dancing on this show. So even with the dancing, still too much Only Women Bleed for me. Then we hit Road Rats. Sound hurts this one. Sick Things, this is the normal like 1 minute version. You know, just enough to give you a taste. Basically, they do this one to rev up if they're going to bring out the snake on Is It My Body. That's the way that usually works out. And that's what it is in this case. And Is It My Body is actually not bad considering the sound. It's actually a pretty decent live version. Then you got Devil's Food, Black Widow. This is the full version of both songs with the Vincent Price tape in the middle. Pretty nice, man. It's I definitely like that. That is great. Then you got Elected. 1980, it was an election year, so this would have been Ronald Reagan running for his first term. I don't even remember who Reagan ran against. I don't think it was Jimmy Carter. I think someone else went up against him instead. Then so, you know, that would have been kind of interesting to see what was going on. However, meh to this version. And then we finish off with School's Out, and it's, you know, it's one of the best constant closers. It's not always the closer, but it's one of the best constant closers. And once again, I'm going to complain about the sound. This album is for hardcore fans. Really, honestly, for hardcore fans. This is not a live album for your basic listener. If I were your average basic Alice Cooper listener and pick this up, or your average basic rock listener and pick this up, this would turn me off of Alice Cooper live. No, you don't want to do that. Alice Cooper is a phenomenon live. There's a reason why in his 70s, he's still out there touring constantly still. The man is a workhorse. People talk about the Rolling Stones. People talk about Paul McCartney. They talk about this. They talk about that. Alice Cooper is the workhorse for touring. And the guy doesn't need to tour. He just likes to tour. It's what keeps him alive. Anyways, if you want to hear Alice Cooper on cocaine, this is Alice Cooper on cocaine, folks. Enjoy. Anyways, I'm going to leave it on that. Hit the like button, subscribe button, little bell for notifications. There is a link below that will take you to Patreon. Peace, love, take care.